everyone, and welcome to the last episode of the Star Sitdown for the semester. Today we have a guest who came on for the first episode of the Star Sitdown, and unfortunately and fortunately, he's going to be leaving the University Star. He was just voted the Star of the Year at the University Star, and it's been a pleasure having him. It's been a pleasure knowing this person ever since I came to the Star. He interviewed me to be a part of the multimedia section at the beginning of the pandemic, and it's been an honor to watch this person grow. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Jaden Edison onto the podcast. How are you doing, Jaden?
I'm back. I've been watching all these episodes. You had everybody on the show this season, and I was like, when you gonna get your boy back on? But I'm doing good, man. I'm ready to graduate. I'm feeling good, wrapping up a lot of important things at the start, with the school year. So it's a little bittersweet, but I feel really good, though. I'm excited about, the future. It feels like, I've been doing the same thing, not the same thing, but, I've been at this organization for 3.5 years in different roles and whatnot, and at Texas State for 4. So, I'm excited for, what's next, so just getting ready for all that good stuff.
Tell the people what you have on plan next, where you're going to be moving this summer.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's actually crazy because I haven't announced it publicly. So I guess we'll do it. The Woj bomb for the Star Sitdown. But so yeah, I'll be once I graduate here, I'll be preparing to go off to Columbia, Columbia's Graduate School of Journalism. So I'll be moving to New York in August, which is exciting. So I'll be headed out there to go look at apartments and all that stuff next month, the day after commencement. Really, I gotta stop saying next month. It's really in a couple weeks. I'll be going to move into New York, but I'll be joining the Tony Stabile Center for Investigative Journalism out there. So I'll be, diving deeper into the craft, trying to, sharpen up everything that I've learned here and take it to the next level. So I'll be using the summer to, get my mind right. And it's been a long year here, so get some rest and read and focus, break down some little things here when it comes to journalism and really just history. Because I think anytime you can learn and read more, it helps you as a journalist. I'll be focused on that. And then, heading into August where we'll take on a whole new challenge for, the 1-year program over in the Big Apple. So I'm excited for that.
So what made you choose Columbia over Northwestern? Because you got accepted to Northwestern first. It was Medill, right?
Right.
Their journalism program.
Yeah.
So what made you choose Columbia over Northwestern?
So funny backstory. So I was really high on Northwestern before I even applied to graduate school. Like, that was the first school I think I ever looked at where I was like, ooh, like, I like this. It's like in Chicago area. I'm originally from Chicago. So I'm like, there's that connection. I got my family there. I got, the Bulls, Bears, all the teams I love, my people, food, all those different things. It made sense. But I had always I said I was going to apply to 2 other schools just for insurance because you never know if you're going to get in or not. And I was like, I want to go to grad school, but if I don't get into Northwestern, then I need to have another plan. So it was like, I thought about applying to Stanford, and Stanford was a place that I didn't really like their program just because it was really data center, right? And I think data is important, don't get me wrong, but it's not the foundation of everything that I want to do with journalism. So I was looking at that, and I looked at Columbia, with former managing editor at the Star, Sawyer Click, went to Columbia. I know he had, nothing but great things to say about it, and I had family members that went there. And so everybody I was talking to had either attended Columbia or Northwestern. So I ended up applying to Columbia. So yeah, when I got into both schools, it was interesting. I heard from Northwestern the week of the winter storm, and it was like right at the end of the week, like that Friday, I heard from them, and I was high on it. I was like, yeah, I'm going there, and they offered me, a nice little scholarship and whatnot to go. And then I'll just give this little backstory. I was interviewing the President Trouth. I interviewed President Trouth a couple weeks before I got into Columbia, right? So I was interviewing her for our 11% project. Granted, I think the interview, it always starts off with a little small talk before you get into the actual real stuff that we need to talk about. So, she was asking me about grad school and whatnot, and I was just telling her what was going on. And she said, you know what, Jaden, I'm going to tell you this. Go where they offer you the most money. So I said, I was like, it sounds like pretty basic advice. I'm like, all right, like, appreciate that, But it's funny, though, because Columbia comes back around. They offered me $20,000 more than Northwestern did. And in a way, to me, it felt like more of a vote of confidence, right? It was like, we're going to throw way more money at you because we see more in you. And that's just how it went. And then from there, I was thinking about the New York experience. It's something new, it's uncomfortable, and there's always something unique about taking the road less traveled, as they say, as my aunt told me a few weeks ago. So, it really came down to it. It had to make sense financially. It was like, could I afford to make it happen and all that stuff? And, we figured out a plan and how I'm going to, go about it and whatnot. And, we ended up at Columbia. So it was like as soon as I got into Columbia, that same day, I really started thinking about it seriously, which I didn't think it was going to happen. Like I thought I would hear back from him and I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to Northwestern still. But no, I got in and like my whole mind just shifted in that area. And I had been watching Medill videos like the last 3 weeks before that. So it was like I had set my mind on Northwestern. Then Columbia comes in the picture and like they just, I don't know. I got on the phone with the head of the program, Sheila Coronel, and she was great. Like I talked to her, I felt really, that's a big part of it. It's like being, working with people like faculty members so you feel like you can, work with people, you can trust and whatnot. And I talked to her I felt very comfortable on the phone and like, it seemed like very genuine and sincere, everything she was saying. And, she was like, even when you get out to New York next month, like, let me know. And, I can, we can meet up, stuff like that. I was like, okay, this is it. And then over the last few weeks, it's been attending different webinars and stuff and just really solidified it. So I officially lose my Northwestern offer on Saturday. So if I don't switch course by Saturday, it's over.
Wait, Saturday? Oh, yeah, because today's not
1st.
Friday.
Right, so it'll be May 1st. So this will be out by then, but or whenever it does come out, it'll May 1st will be the last day for that. But I'm already set. I put my down deposit down for Columbia, so we rolling.
That's crazy, man. I'm excited for you. What made you again? What like area? Because I know their journalism program obviously is prestigious and it has like obviously like different like tracks and routes like focus on. And you're doing investigative
Right,
journalism, right? So
right.
talk more about like that and what made you want to go that route.
Yeah, so I mean, the foundation of investigative journalism is uncovering wrongdoing, and I think for me, my experience at the Star, whether it was things focused on social justice or things in relation to the administration, or I've really been able to dip around in all different areas. But I think for me, my purpose in journalism has always been to do the work that eventually changes policy and procedure for the better. Because being a black man, you see things that happen across the country, and you're like, that's not right. So, it's not my job to tell people, what's right or what's wrong. But I figured, with this platform that I have as a journalist, right, like I can really do the work to shine a light on, the injustices facing, communities of color, specifically black communities, right, where, whether it's the criminal justice system, whether it's healthcare, like you see these disparities in higher education, you see it across the board. I think, the best journalism is the journalism that, people read and take action because of it. And I think, investigative journalism is hand in hand with that. So with Northwestern, I had applied for the social justice and investigative program. So it was investigative journalism with a focus on social justice, which was really interesting. And the equivalent of that at Columbia was the investigative program. And, I was just watching videos with Sheila that had the program on YouTube, where she was doing different webinars talking about the program and whatnot. And it really just made sense. So yeah, I mean, again, my goal is like I don't want to just do this just to do it. Like if I'm gonna do this, I want things to change for the better because of it. And I think investigative journalism is the route to help me doing that in the long run. And helping people within marginalized communities, shining the light on the obstacles that they face every day that keep them from progression, that keep them from equality with their white counterparts, so on and so forth.
So around a year ago, you were just about to become the editor-in-chief, and that's when we had the pandemic. And obviously, you have the mindset of, like I'm gonna try and just do it the way like I have a vision. I'm gonna try and keep all the other voices outside of my head. So obviously now, we're doing like the 11%, managing different people. Like people having to switch roles, things popping up, the stress, the anxiety. What would you tell yourself like a year ago now?
Man, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. That's the best. I give that advice now to people who, who I talk to now like one-on-one. It really is, because this job, as editor-in-chief working at the Star, it's a roller coaster. Like some days, I mean, this throughout the last year for you, running the podcast section, is that it's a roller coaster. There are some days where you're like, man, we're moving, man, we're hitting it, and we're on the road to success. And some days you're like, man, like we're not doing enough, or man, we missed the beat here, or man, we're not doing enough here. And some days as a leader, you're like, man, like I should have worded this better, or hey, I should have took this action that would have led us down this path. But that's all really a part of the journey, right? Because without the mishaps, right, without the mistakes you make along the way, you don't have those learning lessons, right? So the next time those situations occur again, you know how to handle them, a little bit better. So I would just say that, when I first started as editor in chief, it was like I wanted things to be immediate. I was like, the things we want to do, we got to get going now. We don't have time to wait. During the last summer, I was waking up, man, I was killing myself trying to wake up at 6 a.m. Every single morning. I'm like, I need to be up by 7. I need to be in the news. I need to read the news for 2 hours. And if I'm not doing that, I am a failure, because that's what the editor in chief is supposed to do. My mental health was suffering because of it, right? But I think, in the grand scheme of things, though, like again, like in hindsight, I would, again, those are lessons learned. But it's a marathon. It's like it's not a sprint. Like your mental health also matters. It's okay to breathe sometimes. Like everything's not going to happen overnight. It's okay to be patient. Things like that. And I think, if I could tell myself that a year ago, that would have helped me out a lot in the beginning with all these anxieties. But at the same time, like, man, the things that we wanted to accomplish, like they were big things, right? It's like we want to transform, the way this organization works for the better. In order to do that, I'm like, we don't have time to sit around and wait. At the same time, we got the pandemic, protests against racism, we got a general election coming up. Then obviously we didn't know about other things that happened with the winter storm and all these other things that happened throughout this year. The 11%, came on the horizon. All these different things happened and whatnot. So again, I would just say, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. There's no, sometimes we can be our own biggest enemy when it comes to, our progression and things that we want to do. But it's okay to just breathe and relax sometimes. And I think I really learned that over this last year, really taking more of a initiative when it comes to taking care of my own self, mental health and things of that nature.
There was like a period, obviously, like in the beginning of like last semester, where like you learn how to do things better and like manage people, and then obviously there's a shift in the middle of the semester where there's different people and you're getting acclimated with the new hires. And even though you had like your anchors, that people that were around before and kind of understand you and the way you do things, if you had to like describe what was kind of the biggest difference between like the first semester as you being editor in chief of your term and then the second semester.
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I mean, every break. So like since I've been when I was a section editor, dating back to when I was a section editor, during that winter break, you have the month off. I always use that as a period of sort of reflection and whatnot. So I take that time to I was looking at some of our policies and whatnot, and like things like, for example, how we cover crime, and I was like, okay, how can we shape this up to be better, and how can I be better, right? I had our exit meetings with each editor. I mean, you were part of that. I met one-on-one with each person to see, okay, what are things we did well together, including myself, right? Not just you, but how, what do, what where do we fall short? What are the things we did well? And really try to get a grasp of that. And I took a note of everything and saw what everybody wanted to do and things of that nature. And then we came back. It was a matter of just trying to be more, more, I guess, relaxed, for lack of a better term, right? Like I understand at that point we did some really cool things. I was like, okay, like there's no rush. Like this semester's gonna fly by, but at the same time you can only do things one day at a time. So I think for me it was really trying to understand that and just try to be more of a resource, because at the same time I'm like the end of my time here is looming. Like it's here soon. So it's like this is the last semester to do the things that we want to do and do it the way we want to do them. So let's do it with no regrets. And that was sort of my mentality coming into the year. But then there were some of the things that were just the same, right? I think my goals never wavered, or my determination to want to do those things and push our staff members and whatnot to do great things, that never changed. So I guess it was just more so trying to sharpen what he had already did and try to make it a little bit better in my approach to those things, whether it was our all staff meetings or whether it was our section meetings, or checking in with people or things of that nature, just trying to be a little bit better in all those areas.
Another thing I wanted to ask you about was, this pointer project, the 11%. We just held our event yesterday. I think it went, really well, all things considered, and I'm really pleased with how it turned out. But other than that, it was a roller coaster. Like you had spoke about this yesterday, and I was there. Especially for me, it was kind of difficult because like I was just starting, I'm new, like everyone was like, "Who the hell is this guy?" And like yeah, so I didn't really. It was just a lot for me, and for us, where it's like, what if we did this with Black students? And like I said, like me being new, I was like just hearing people out. Some people wanted to do like COVID and the election, and I don't think people really understood like the longevity and like what this project really entailed. So I think that's kind of why people weren't thinking in the way that like you were, and when you pitched like the 11%. But nevertheless, this project is almost over. We have maybe one more piece of content 10 years from now, and that'll be it. So, how would just give me your overall thoughts. I know you've given it multiple times, but just like being a part of this historic project and the Stars history and just the overall execution that we've done this year.
No, absolutely, man. Like I mentioned this a little bit last night, but I've been here 3.5 years, and this was right up there with the most rewarding things that I've ever been able to be a part of, right? Because this, again, like I told you before, is like the journalism that changes policy and procedure for the better. I think the 11% is right up there with that, right? Like I point to the activism story, right? Like those are the kind of stories that people read and say, okay, we need to re-examine how maybe the way we approached this 2 years ago wasn't the right way, because these students are still traumatized 2 years later. So even hearing President Trump come out in an interview, it wasn't the answer that a lot of students probably didn't, a lot of the answer that they wanted to hear. But hearing her say, if I would go back a couple years ago, I would change my messaging. I would say that Black Lives Matter, because I knew that's what students really wanted to hear. Like, again, that's probably not the answer that everybody wants to hear. And people say it's words and whatnot. But to me, I'm like, okay, she's acknowledging, that, here's how students felt. Like, to me, I'm like, that's the importance of the journalism, right? Is being able to push things a little bit forward, every time, right? Like you're not going to be able to change the world overnight. But again, like, the more you can do, piece by, it's more like I was saying, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. Same thing when it comes to, trying to change policy and procedure for the better. And the journalism is the first draft of history that helps to get there. So I think, it's been really good. Do I think everything that we did, was perfect? No, and I think anybody would agree with that. But I've been really happy. I've been reflecting more so over the last few days, just thinking about it. Right, like things haven't been perfect, but I think when a lot of times with this project, when it was crunch time, like the stars really showed up. Right, whether it was whether it was Hannah, Bianca. Man, seeing Tamia Cobb, our assistant news editor, who'll be the next news editor, seeing her step up with the intermission videos. I messaged her today, just telling her how proud I am of her. Like, man, like when we needed people the most to step up, they showed up, and I'm really grateful for that, right? Because there were a lot of people, just being honest with you, there are a lot of people who didn't take an interest in the project, right? There are a lot of people behind the scenes who, they maybe dipped in for, did a little bit, and then, it was kind of like, they didn't really, I guess, maybe like speaking to your point earlier, maybe they didn't really see the real deeper significance of it because they hadn't spent as much time with it. So I think it's been really good, though. The journalism, man, has been good, man, from the documentaries to Language of the Unheard, the audio series we did, to the timeline, to the people we've gotten to meet and talk to. Like me and you before we started recording, we're talking about Cree Taylor. Like, how remarkable, is she, like being able to see her at the event last night, her and Evan and Dr. Fluker. Like, we were talking about this yesterday. Like, hearing Dr. Fluker talk makes you want to run through a wall. Like, those are all opportunities presented by the 11% Project. And, just seeing the community send us emails and say, hey, like, I didn't even know this happened until you guys reported on that. Like, great work. Like, I've heard that so many times this year. And that's what we do it for, right? Not for the recognition per se, but for, the significance of it, right? So people can, take something away from it, right? And doing the journalism so that it leads to meaningful action. So, I've been really, happy with it. I'm grateful to have worked on it. I think it's, really, we were talking about it yesterday, like being able to see our Black staff members really strive, with this project. Because make no mistake about it, the 11% Project, if you ask me, the foundation of it really was our Black staff members, right? It was like when we ran into fatigue, when people started to slow down, when it got really hard, it was us who stepped up and said, y'all, let's get this going. Let's get it across the finish line, right? We saw that, just this last month with the event, running into fatigue. And, it made me so happy to be able to see you step up. You step up and you're like, okay, we have our stuff together. So let's push this thing forward. It's just a lot of stuff that people don't know behind the scenes. But it's all learning experiences. I think the Star is better because of it. Like I don't think we've ever, since I've been here, we haven't done anything like this before. And I think, I think you've been able to see, the benefits of it through, other places, in our work. And I think although this part of the 11% project is ending, I think you'll see pieces of what we learn in the 11% in stuff that we do years and years from now. This was the foundation.
It was first off, I appreciate you saying that about me stepping up. Thank you. I think that was kind of the most challenging thing in my opinion because like the fatigue was real, and it wasn't at least in my opinion, this is from my point of view. I can't speak for everyone else, but like for me it's not like I don't care. It's just like it's trying to do all this other stuff, like trying to make sure, especially like I spoke about this yesterday, like in the beginning of the year, like trying to make sure like school is good, like trying to make sure I have everything for my classes, trying to make sure all my new people are good and like train them. And then trying to make sure like the section content is there like when it needs to be. And then also like do the 11%. Like that's four things just right there, like trying to do it all at once. So I think from my point of view, I think some staff members may not have had like ill intent, like they didn't mean for it to come off that way, but I definitely see how it can come off that way, and like one thing I'm happy about the 11% project that like being a part of it was, coming into like my own blackness and like exposure to different kinds of black people, because I spoke about this yesterday. Like one of the reasons I didn't attend an HBCU is because just like where I come from, it's very diverse. Like one of my like few of my best friends, white, Middle Eastern, black. Like it's not just all like black people. So I kind of thrive in that environment, and it's been really rewarding in my opinion. Like being part of like such like historic like ed board. Like I think like realistically, and I might be wrong, but I don't think there's been that many like black people on the editorial board ever.
Right with you. I don't know the statistics either, but I would. Yeah, I think you're probably right. Right.
I would
You're
be
out
shocked
there,
if almost,
Matthew.
yeah, like I'd be shocked if almost half, like a half of the editorial board is black, and majority of them black women. Like that's amazing, So I think that kind of speaks to the project itself because I feel like without us, it really wouldn't happen. And like Barbara Allen, she's the coordinator, correct?
Yeah, she's the head of the college media project at Pointer, who helped or who organizes all the project logistics and stuff.
Like every time we speak to Barbara in our meeting, she's like, "Oh my, you guys are doing a terrific job. Like you asked the hard questions, like that's great." And we're like, "Yeah, like we could have done this better." She's like, "No, no, no, like this is great stuff." Like,
She said we're the hardest. She thinks we're the hardest working newsroom in the country sometimes. And you hear that, you be like, man, like, because I be feeling like sometimes, man, it's like we could be doing so much more. We could be doing better, but it just goes to show you, like, we just have really high expectations for ourselves. But from the outside looking in, like, you know,
yeah, man. I how did you deal with the fatigue during this
yeah.
project?
I mean, it was hard. I mean, I just kind of just try to keep going, right? Like for me, just thinking of the bigger purpose, because like really dating back to the October portion when we did history, like I was mentioning this yesterday. It's like that really, man, that helped reshape the way I thought about journalism because we were going through the archives, the old University Star papers from the '80s, and I'm like, dude, if this was not here, we wouldn't know any of this stuff. And then somebody on Facebook commented, I can't remember who it was, but they commented on our thing right now and said, the Star is doing a great job this semester. I'm so glad y'all are printing again. Remember that you are always the first draft of history. And I'm like, you always know that, but it's like, man, like going through the archives and seeing that, I'm like, dude, like if we're not here, if the star is not present on this campus, nobody else knows what's going on. Like, I mean, you got the Daily Record. The Daily Record is, they're in the middle of the city, so it's like, and they don't have as many resources as we do as far as being on campus, all day long. Like they do great work for, working with what they have and whatnot. But there's nobody who can cover Texas State like the University Star does because we're right here. We're students. We're right in the mix of it. We're impacted by everything that happens here. So that was so important to me. Again, like realizing that we're the first draft of history, and that's how I felt about the 11%. Like we're the first draft of history. So that's what sort of pushed me across the line. Is that if nobody else does this work, then it's not going to get done at all. So it's like we have to, be the ones to push through. So, even in meeting, like I'm telling you, like a lot of the meetings were probably where I was most vocal, were probably the meetings where I was feeling the fatigue as well. But as the leader, it's like I can't let that, because if I show up and my morale is down, everybody else is going to be a domino effect across the board. So I have to be the person that, I have to make sure, I do what I do, whether it's, talking to my friends or listening to music and stuff like that to, deal with the things that I have to deal with. But in the grand scheme of things, I always try to keep, stay upbeat and stay motivated. And even when I was most tired, like when I come in front of that, when that Zoom camera comes on and we're in front of the team, it's, hey, y'all, what are we doing? Let's go. Let's roll. And, and trying to get people to follow along. So that was really the biggest thing, but just understanding the deeper importance of why we're doing what we're doing. I think that's what got me across the, where it's getting me, has gotten us through, all of the trials and tribulations.
What was it like managing like non-black staff members throughout the project that maybe didn't like get it? Like, cause we spoke about like in the beginning and people not understanding the significance, but like especially like in a role that you're in and like trying to lead people and like make things happen. What's it like trying to like when it's kind of like people aren't really seeing the bigger picture and like you can't see eye to eye?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think in a lot of ways, the work sort of, the significance of the work. I mean, it's so important, and I don't see how you can care you can care a lot about what we're doing and not be forced to educate yourself and not be forced to go the extra mile. And I think right off the bat, like when we were doing the projects and whatnot, like from the timeline to language of the unheard, like seeing people across campus saying, "Hey, are y'all part of the 11% project?" Like people hearing that, like that gives you an extra push that okay, like we're like this isn't just some small thing that nobody's gonna see. Like this is something that's really important, really significant, and this the hope is that it means a lot to a lot of different people. So we have to do this right. So I think again, like I talked about the importance of our black staff members, but that's not to say that it was only the black staff members that contributed. Right, we had a lot of great people, who stepped in and stepped up, which I was really grateful for, and did a lot of great things. Right, from Gabby to Bree, who's the next editor in chief, and across the board, like people stepped up. I know, man, Sunshine, who's on our PR team, like he was with me. You were there too. All three of us during the hometown interviews. Like, I think it was kind of cool to see them, who some of them maybe didn't really understand at the beginning, to see a lot of people start over time as they take on these projects and they hear people's stories and they talk to them to really say, oh, snap, like this is pretty cool. As far as the journalism that we're doing, like, seeing that it's having an impact, like that's a really good feeling. Like I think that was really rewarding to see. So again, like, there was a lot of fatigue across the board, but I think a lot of it was, people, because I mentioned this yesterday too in the event, is that if you care so much about something if you care so much about journalism, there is no way that you come across something that you don't know and be okay with not knowing that, if that makes sense. It's like, it's gonna irk you so much. Like for me, I think about myself, like, I'm like, there are so many things this summer that I got to dive into and read. Cause like, there have been too many times periodically throughout this year where I'm like, like, I don't want to speak on that because I'm probably not the most educated person to talk about it, but I want to be. Like, I want to, when people ask me about it, I want to be able to answer that question. So I think, across the board, the journalism, took care of a lot of the things that people maybe didn't know. And my hope is that, moving forward, they think about the foundational things that we had to do in order to get through this project.
Kind of reflecting again on like this past year and like holistically and like from where we were when we did the first episode to where we are now. We've improved a lot, like obviously the addition of this section, the implementation of the newsletter, trying to be better with like hyper localization. Obviously, you're never satisfied because you think, we could have done this better, we could have done that better. But like in the grand scheme of things over this past year, are you like happy with the changes and the progress that we've made as an organization?
I think so. I am. I'm my biggest critic, but I really do like. Again, like, and it really of it is just like the emails and the messages of support we've gotten all year long. Like, man, I got an email yesterday. Somebody said, I really love the stories the Star has been doing this semester. Like, thanks so much for the great reads, all year long. Like stuff like that. Like that's the fact that it's having an impact on the community. Like that. Those are messages that at least me personally, like I wasn't getting those a year ago, right? Like it was. But I think things like the 11% have pushed us in a direction where, again, you're starting to see its influence in all aspects of what we're doing, like being able to be consistent, right? And knowing, again, I say this all the time, understanding the why part. But I really think, man, like, I just look at our stories, like the stories that we've done, in print this year. Like, you look at P1, like a variety of different things from Black women, in having a nail business, right? Like stuff like that, or women in the MFA program, Master of Fine Arts program, or we ran an editorial, talking about the importance of the 11% project. I mean, we dedicated a whole page to our activism story with the 11%. So I think all these different stories and whatnot, we've been able to dip into all aspects of sort of our community, and I think a lot of our community. My hope is that the community feels that it has benefited from it, right? That we've been able to be a real public service. But again, just the messages of support and hearing, that's what it's all about. You can do all this stuff, but if the people you're doing the work for, if they aren't receiving it, right? If they aren't, if they feel you're not doing a good job, then this is good as nothing, right? Because that's what you ultimately do it for, is the community, right? For the underrepresented communities, right? The stories that haven't been told. It's our job to go into the communities and find those people, find those stories, and for lack of a better term, shine a light on them, right? So I think we've been able to do that this year. I really do. And internally, have we been perfect? No, like there are still things, and that's what the longevity of this is it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. One of my advisors told me early when I first started is that you're not going to be able to accomplish everything in the year. So, get that out of your head now. And, but the goal is to always leave a place better than you found it. And I think, dating back to May 1st when our editorial board took over to May 1st, this upcoming Saturday, whenever it comes, the University Star will be in a better place than it was 1 year before. And that's really, and I know I leave this organization with no regrets. I leave this organization with no, I am comfortable in the work we did, because I know the people who I was doing it with, cared a lot. And I know, me personally, I knew I was doing things for the right reasons. I know I gave it my maximum effort, in every task that I took on. And I never cheated the process. And I tried to spread that same sort of mentality across the Star. I think a lot of people have bought into it. So absolutely, I think we're in a much better place than we were when we took over a year ago. And my hope is that next year, you all as a team, looks back again and say, okay, May 1st last year, May 1st now, we in a better place than we were a year ago. Like, that's the goal every year. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And the Star is much bigger than any individual person that ever, is blessed with the opportunity to be able to be the editor-in-chief.
This is another thing I was curious. So since you've been at the Star for 3.5 years, obviously you've ascended and your name has been out there tremendously. A lot of people know you and your leadership style. And you only have so much control as to like what your legacy is and what your legacy will be, because at the end of the day, your legacy is what others say about you. But what do you think your legacy is at the University Star, being here for so long, now that you're about to go on to this next chapter?
Right. Well, being someone who always cared a lot, right? So one being, diverse in that area, right? I care so much that I always wanted to be the best version of myself that I could possibly be for our staff members, for myself, and, for the organization. So whether that was taking photos, whether that was writing opinion columns, whether that was reporting news, whether that was being editor-in-chief, multimedia editor, whatever it was, like I always wanted to have a diverse sort of toolkit to be able to dip into every area and have an impact on every area. So I think, I think that's a part of it. Being very detail oriented. I would say, every small detail matters. And I think that's something that I hope that people who I've worked with have been able to take that away and be able to apply that within their own respective, crafts and whatnot, is that, the details matter, right? And it's always impact over intent. And one missed detail, right? Like one misspelled name in the newspaper, could essentially have a negative impact on somebody's, well-being, right? Like that. I tried to just really explain, the significance of doing, of the importance of why we do what we do. And, like I said before, is that, I can go to sleep at night comfortable knowing that in all areas of anything I did, whether it was, again, in the opinion section, whether it was multimedia, whether it was reporting, as a section editor, as the editor-in-chief, representing the Star at events, whatever it was. Like I promise, it was always a deal of giving this organization like everything I had. Like even when it was, I missed family events, because of work I was doing at the Star. I've, had my weekends taken away because of, had to cover some at the Star. But it was always about the organization and the people who occupy it, always trying to just strive to be like the best version of myself. So, I hope that's my legacy, right? Like people, they'll say what they say, right? And was I perfect? Not at all. But, I know I've been able to, gain the respect of my peers and, I hope that, you never want your name to be, thrown in the dirt, or you never want to be viewed upon negatively. So I just hope that people who I've been able to work with, like they leave with, to be able to say that, Jaden, he cared a lot. He put the time in, and he knew why he was doing it, and he did them for the right reasons. Like I think, if people are saying that, that's fine, and I think, but at the end of the day, it starts with, knowing that what I put into it, and I leave this organization like, reassured that, I gave it everything I had, like for the last 3.5 years. Coming into the organization with somebody who understood very little about the world, and really, working my behind off with the help of so many great people along the way, to be able to get to a place now where I have the opportunity of a lifetime to be able to do stuff like Columbia, and be able to, have my name out there. Like you talked about, people know who I am at the university. Like, that's awesome, because those are people, those are lifelong relationships that I have, right? Like, people who, I always have a place to come back to in future years, right? Like if I ever, come back and visit or speak, like I'll always have people here, who I'll have connections with because of my experiences in the last 3.5 years at the Star and 4 years at Texas State. So, I try not to get too much into, the, the, I don't know how to describe it. Like I really just try to focus on, the work that we did, and know, and understand the importance of it. But, I'm really happy with where we're at. And again, like the goal is to leave a place better than you found it. And I think, all of us collectively, the people who bought it, because my job was to come in and set the vision, and everybody else bought into it. And I think, again, looking back 1 year ago today, are we a better organization today than we were then? Absolutely. Like I think that, and I say that with no doubt in my mind, that we are. And I think we did some real transformational things that we're going to change the Star forever, right? Things that we hadn't pursued before. And that's a testament to the people that we have on staff, and the people that we've been able to work with all year long.
Jane, I appreciate you coming on this episode of the podcast for the last time. It's been interesting watching you grow, and like that conversation we had with you, Carrington, and I about like like passing the baton, man. I appreciate that you said to me yesterday, like that's what it's all about. Like you're gonna do great things, and I believe you're gonna do great things. And it's crazy to think like a year ago was in this the pandemic just started. I'm like, Carrington is like, yo, you gotta interview Kim, and then you're like, hey Kim, I DM'd you on Instagram. I was like, hey, I'm here. I just want to let you know this is who I am. And you're like, oh yeah, I was just about to reach out to you. How's it going? And here we are now. It's crazy, man. But all jokes aside, man, I respect you, and I think you did a great job this year, given all of the things that could have happened and all the unexpected things. I'm proud of you, truly. And you going to New York City. You know how I feel about New York City. So
Yeah.
I wish you the best, man. Is there anything
Likewise.
else you want to say?
No, for sure. Likewise, man. I mean, you've created a great platform here, and you have your own. I know you're sort of early on, so I'm sure you'll have your moments in the next year or so, whenever it's your time to graduate, to reflect and stuff like that. But you're doing great work, man. And keep doing the great work. Like we talked about passing the baton, we were on the. I think that's what it's all about. So I'm graduating, but I feel really comfortable, knowing that people like you are at the organization to keep doing the foundational things that we started this year. You're there to sort of keep the ball rolling, along with some other key people in the mix. But I'm really grateful for my time at the Star these last 3.5 years. I'm grateful for being able to come across great people like you, and the next editor in chief, Brianna, and Gabby, who's our managing editor this year. I can go down the list on and on and on and on and on. From Carrington to Sawyer to like I can go on and on and on about all these great people that I've met. And really, anything that I've been able to do was because of the people here that sort of helped push me along and the people that bought in and believed in me as a leader. So I'm really grateful for my time here. I'm grateful for my time at Texas State. I left a lot of meetings upset because I wasn't getting the answers that I wanted to, but I'll leave a better journalist and a person because of it. So, this is just the beginning. The University Star is going to continue to grow and continue to strive, and I'll be, a fan on the sidelines cheering, and hopefully in the next few years being able to throw some money back to it to keep it going long term. But yeah, man, thanks for the opportunity, man. It's an honor to be the first episode and then be on, I guess, the last episode of the season. But I know y'all will keep it going. But congrats on all your success, and I wish the Star nothing but the best. But I'll still be here. I won't be far. It's what they say is not a goodbye. So see you later. I'll still be around. So my phone line will always be open, and I'll be watching from afar and rooting the Star on. But yeah, man, thanks for the opportunity. And I guess anybody watching, thanks for all the experiences over the last 3.5 years. And yeah, man, I'll see y'all around.
Thank you again, Jaden. Thank you to all the people that watched this semester. This is the last episode, so at least for this semester, show is probably going to be a little different next semester. Who knows? We don't know. But
Be better though. We can say that for sure. It's going to be better. Whatever.
Yeah, most definitely. It's going to be a lot better. But man, this is crazy. Anyway, we hope I hope all of our viewers have a wonderful summer. I hope everyone got a 4.0 GPA, but I know most of you didn't. But I still hope you did. But in the meantime, thank you all for a wonderful semester. My name is Kim Davis Jr., the podcast editor at The Star, signing off. See ya.